Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the top pros and cons of living here in the state of Maryland. The good, bad, the ugly. Definitely not going to leave anything out for you guys today. And this is coming from someone who's not from here. So I was born and raised in Southern California. And when my wife and I discussed coming back here, she's from Greater Baltimore. So we're kind of in a tough situation no matter which way you go. You're leaving family, you're leaving friends. And it kind of was a tough conversation. I was like, do we have to? But overall, it's been a great move, but it's not perfect. So we're gonna go over these top pros and cons, and hopefully it'll help you and your family with your decision making on whether Maryland is the right place for you. So let's get started right now. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Living in Maryland channel, where we talk about all things living here in the great state of Maryland. So if that's the kind of information you're looking for, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you can be made aware of the new videos that we do each and every week talking about all things living in Maryland. And if you are considering making a move here to Maryland, if you're wondering whether buying a home is the right decision for you and your family, we absolutely love helping out in any way we can with that decision-making process. If there's anything that we can do to help with your move here to Maryland, feel free to reach out however you are most comfortable, whether that's by email, text, or phone, days, nights, and weekends. We've got your back when moving here to the great state of Maryland. All right, so we're gonna start with the pros, and the first is that Maryland is it's pretty developed, and the reason why I mention this is just because it just kind of creates, expectations, and you kind of know what to expect, right? So there's only so much further they can build out, and Maryland's a pretty small state. So, and I mentioned this because I guess from where I come from, I compare it to Southern California. So I grew up in Greater LA, in the South Bay area, and it's definitely definitely developed. Overdeveloped there, but then it's just so big, it's so massive. So a few years ago, my parents moved down to an area called Temecula in southern Riverside County as you head down to San Diego. And 15-20 years ago, that place didn't really exist. I mean, it was a pit stop to Vegas. And it's huge. It's over 100,000 people and probably 500,000 people right in that little Temecula Valley there. But there's not, in Maryland, there's really not much to go. And another reason why I say that is because as a homeowner, that gives me a little more peace of mind knowing that it's going to keep values honest. It's going to probably keep, insulate them from any future hard times or anything like that that may come in times of instability and volatility that we're in. So that kind of gives me peace of mind. That's something that I kind of like about this area, is that. So there's only really so much further they can go. There's definitely some room in Carroll County and parts of Frederick, but outside of that, there's really not a ton. So you kind of really know what to expect here in Maryland, what you're going to get, housing, and that's something that I kind of really, enjoy about Maryland. And then just an example of that is I live here in Howard County, Maryland. So it's a smaller county. We're at about 330,000 people. So when you compare that to surrounding counties like Montgomery County, PG County, Anne Arundel, and Baltimore County, we're definitely on the smaller side. But there's a big push in local government now, and I've been hearing a lot about it, is against further development. So there really is a big push against that. I would imagine you'd probably see that in surrounding counties as well. So if you're looking for new construction, you we'll definitely see some, but it's definitely far less than other metros around the country that I've been hearing about, and especially where my parents live and where I lived in Southern California for a few years before coming here. There was just constant expansion everywhere, and you're not going to really see that as much in Maryland. So again, I guess you can go pro. You could probably go both sides on that, but for me, just kind of seeing both sides of that, I kind of like the fact that I know what to expect here. There's really only so much more expansion that you can have here. So in regards to home ownership, in regards to home values, and overall the economy, I think it's definitely a good thing. And then another thing that I love about Maryland is the economy here, is the financial opportunities. So if you're looking for work, you're not gonna have any trouble here in Maryland. There are so many opportunities, so many jobs. I was having a couple conversations recently with a couple friends, and they've literally had a new job every couple years within technology, government contracting. There's just so much opportunity here. Every time they got a little dissatisfied with something, they hit the open market and was able to find something that was a little more beneficial, paid a little more, whatever the case may be. So there is no shortage of opportunity here. There is no shortage of jobs between the dual metro area of DC, Baltimore, all the contracting, all the government work in between within Central Maryland. So everywhere you look here, there's opportunity for work and opportunity for jobs, and that's something that I absolutely love about this area. And pro number 3 is going to be the diversity here in Maryland. So this is something that I absolutely love about this area, getting to meet so many different kinds of people from so many different backgrounds, hearing their stories. It's absolutely amazing. So you are definitely going to see that here in Maryland. And just also tied into that is the different cultures. There's the food scene here in Maryland is great. If you ever want any recommendations on some good restaurants here in the Central Maryland area, feel free to reach out. I can definitely give you my top favorites in regards to that, but you are definitely going to find diversity here in Maryland. That's something that my wife and I love about this area, especially now having a 14-month-old son and kind of raising him in this area, getting exposure to that is just something that we're really excited about. So something that we definitely love about the Maryland area. And pro number 4 is going to be there are so many things to do here in Maryland. So being in a smaller state, this is something that's been really cool for me personally, just coming from Southern California. It's so big, it's so hard to leave the state. It's a huge effort, but being here in the greater Baltimore area, you're 3.5 hours to New York City, 2.5 hours to Philly. You're so close to so many different states and so many different areas. So that's been something that's been really fun. In the summertime, Ocean City, Delaware's got some great beaches. So you're about 2.5, 3 hours to beaches on the Eastern Shore. Deep Creek is about 2.5 hours in Western Maryland. So that's an area year round that's amazing to go to. So we've stayed at cabins out there with friends in the winter. In the summertime, it's got the lake scene. They got some mountains, so you can do skiing, snowboarding in the winter. The trails and kind of the wildlife out there is amazing. So that's definitely something I would check out. And then also just being in this dual metro area. So for us, where we are in Howard County, we're about 20-25 minutes to Inner Harbor of Baltimore. We're about 45-50 minutes down to DC. So being able to do day trips to both of those areas has been something that's been amazing as well. And then Maryland is also 40+% covered in trees, which makes hiking, finding trails, getting out to state parks, whether it's Patuxent, Patapsco, there's several others as well in the area. It makes it so easy. And this is something for me coming from California. We'd go to the beach and that was amazing, but outside of that, getting into nature was very difficult. You'd have to drive a long time. It's so congested, buildings, development everywhere. So this is something about having nature so accessible, having so much opportunity to get out there and hike and be on a river and whatever, just doing so many things outdoors is so much fun. So that's definitely something I would check out, and definitely one of the top pros for me personally, at least from where I came from, about being here in the state of Maryland. All right, now we're going to switch over and talk about some of these cons. So first is going to be winter. So, and especially from, as I mentioned, where I came from, where it seems to be sunny and 75 so much of the year. This was definitely, tough, and it's one of the, bigger challenges for me. And I kind of got eased into the seasons and stuff. My wife met going to college in Ohio, so the winters and the seasons were definitely present there. So, but it's still, every year it gets challenging. So not being able to be outside for a certain portion of winter, I definitely miss that. Being outside year round and kind of seeing more of that sun, dealing with some of the snow and the rain and just kind of the gloominess that you have a little more here. So I've definitely I've popped my vitamin D, kind of get going, stay busy with work and family and friends and stuff like that. But it's definitely dealing with that seasonal affective disorder sometimes during winter. It's definitely present. So something to kind of be prepared for, at least that, for me, that I dealt with, and everyone's different, where you're coming from, but that was definitely something that I'm still kind of working with and each winter and stuff. But it's not the end of the world, because Maryland is definitely mild. So it's definitely nothing like I would imagine being up in the Northeast, or like I said, Ohio was far worse than it is here in Maryland. So that's definitely, for me, I've been exposed to both. So definitely something to keep in mind, and for me, that's definitely one of the cons about being here in the area. All right, con number 2 is going to be the taxes here in Maryland. There is no shortage of taxes here in Maryland. So it gets a little expensive. Overall cost of living starts adding up here in the state of Maryland. That's definitely something that you want to be prepared for. So number 1 is going to be the state income tax. And I've broken this down in other videos if you want to check that out. But in general, just a quick overview of that is you pay a direct state tax to the state of Maryland. Based on whatever your earned income is, and then you pay a local income tax through whatever county you live in. They're both paid through the state, so a lot of people may not even realize they're paying that local income tax, but it's definitely there. And again, that's where you live, not necessarily where you work or based on any other factor. So when you combine those, most people are going to end up in between the 8 to 9% range as far as state income tax. So depending on where you're coming from, if you're coming from some of these states that have far less or even no state income tax, definitely something that you want to be prepared for. It's going to be a little bit of a hit. I know for me, it's definitely a check each year that I definitely am not, excited to write. So something that you want to be prepared for and something to expect. Next, our sales tax here in Maryland is a flat 6% on everything you buy. So not too crazy, depending on, some of the areas that you may be coming from. I know for me, that's kind of on the lower end, at least from California. It's not too bad, but definitely something to know about. And then I just found out recently that our gas tax per gallon here in Maryland is about 37 cents per gallon. And the only reason why I figured that out is because when this war started with Russia and Ukraine, gas prices started surging. And I'm always texting my brother and a buddy back home in Southern California. I'm like, what's gas at? They always trend about $1 to $1.25 higher than us. So we were like approaching $4 a gallon, and they're like at $5.50, a little over $5.50, and it's just crazy. It always amazes me at how expensive it is for a gallon of gas out there in California. But here we kind of peaked out at $4.17, $4.27 a gallon, depending on the area you were in. And then the state of Maryland, it was cool to see both sides of the aisle come together and just, get this done quickly. We were one of the first 2 states to remove the state gas tax. Maryland did it for 30 days. I don't know if they're going to reevaluate that. But that basically they removed the 37-cent state gas tax, very quickly. And all the gas stations passed that along to the consumer. So in an instant, you saw those gas prices come right down. And it was always kind of interesting because I didn't even know that was there. So that's just something I figured I'd mention because it was something I saw and heard about here very recently. And then property taxes. Property taxes aren't too bad when you relate them to property value, but because our values continue to grow and that we have fairly high real estate costs here in Maryland, that's something that's a little pricey as well. So you're about 1 to 1.25 of retail value, of the home. So whatever the market values of the home, if it's a $500,000 home, you're probably going to be, around $5,000 to, $5,700 a year for your property taxes. So something to kind of keep in mind. Again, definitely not like, other areas around the country. For me, it seems like it may not be completely even, but it comes out in the wash a little more, even than you may think. So some of these states like, Texas and Tennessee that have no state income tax, well, their property taxes are 2 and 3%. And that adds up. So it still may be a little more expensive here in Maryland, but our property taxes aren't crazy relative to what the prices are. So that's something to keep in mind. The taxes definitely add up. It does get expensive to live here in Maryland, but that's what you can expect tax-wise. All right, and then con number 3 about living here in Maryland is going to be the bugs and the rodents. So I don't know, for me coming from California, I think it's more that, we have so many basements here in Maryland. And maybe it's just something I notice a lot more here than, where I came from. But the spiders, the mosquitoes, the stink bugs, we have stink bugs everywhere. My wife is constantly, anytime I see a red Dixie cup on the floor turned upside down, I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's another stink bug I got to throw out. So I try to just throw them out the front door instead of, kill them every time. But anyway, she doesn't want to touch them or go anywhere near them. So you're definitely going to see a lot of that stuff here, and especially in the basements. Our last house, we had an unfinished basement, so there were, oh man, like you just see that stuff kind of all over the place. So something to expect about here in the area. Now, when I mentioned rodents, I just want to mention this because not to freak anyone out, of course, this is probably in most areas of the country, but for me, my experience, I just stumbled across, some more mice and black snakes here in the area than I did in Southern California. So my wife only knows about the one, but I had to kill and take care of two, two black snakes at our last house in the basement. I don't know how the heck they got in. But that wasn't necessarily fun, and I definitely didn't want to freak her out. So, stuff that you're gonna see, you may have to deal with depending on, where you're at. But that's something that personally I've seen and experienced. So wanted to kind of let you guys know. So hopefully it's not a shocker if that's something you stumble across. And then, as I mentioned, the mosquitoes are pretty rough here. I don't know, they've always kind of stayed away from me. It's kind of weird, right? They kind of just seem to pick on certain people, and they definitely pick on my wife. Anytime we go out, it's only but a few minutes until she's kind of, she's got bites all over the place. So we're really excited because a few months ago we moved into this new house, and it's been crazy, but we have a screened in porch now, so we can finally, hang out, go have a drink and chill on the screened in porch, and she's not gonna get all eaten up. So at the last house, I was always like, hey, come on, let's have a drink, let's hang out for a few minutes. And it's like, it was such a project because the second we'd step outside, she would just get eaten up, and it just kind of took the fun out of it. So you're gonna see a lot of screened in porches here in Maryland. It's definitely something I'd recommend, something that helps out where you can enjoy your time outside. And if you're, one of those people that gets eaten up very easily and very quickly, that's something that you definitely wanna look into. All right, everyone, thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something new. If you ever need anything at all, please feel free to reach out, and we'll see you at the next video.